In the report, 3 of the committee's 8 recommendations have to do with preventing public order incidents from brewing, especially in areas where large crowds of foreigners congregate. So Geylang, for instance, has been one of those areas. And the police commissioner has said that's even more of a powder keg than Little India. So what are the challenges then of applying the lessons of Little India to these other high concentration areas?
Well, I think Geylang is even more diverse in terms of the number of types of people, nationalities that congregate there. So I think that it implies that, yes, you need some more, more boots on the ground, but then you need people who understand the situation and are able to diffuse the situation. But generally, I think you need, Singaporeans want foreigners to understand our social norms better. But even if they were willing, even if the foreigners were willing, they'll get it right 1 out of 5 times. So we need more bridge builders, more peacemakers, certainly people who can mediate day in, day out, rather than wait till things build up. There must be a certain undergirding where there is peace and understanding and tolerance.
So not just more boots on the ground, but more boots on the ground that can relate to the people who are there.
And the day-to-day lived experience.
They don't have to be boots. Officers, I think. They can be,
community leaders.
Community leaders and so on.
And just all of us, really, because, now anybody you meet, out of 3 people you meet, one of them is going to be a foreigner. So they're going to look at us and have their impressions of how life is going to be for them.
So we should be the ambassadors as well. Areas. And even before the Little India Riot, authorities had actually begun to look at tighter alcohol restrictions across Singapore, not just in those areas. But one specific measure the Committee of Inquiry has suggested is a more vigilant enforcement of Section 18 of the Miscellaneous Offences Act. Now this act, let me just summarize it, says that if a person is found drunk, incapable of taking care of himself in a public place, they can be fined or jailed. So Vikram, I'm going to start with you again. I saw you smiling. You should know this act quite well. As a lawyer, not the other point, sorry. Should we be more vigilant in this area? Do you agree with that?
I agree that we need more vigilance. I'm not sure Section 18 is sufficient because it requires the person to be incapable of taking care of himself. And I don't think any of the people involved in the riot would have crossed that threshold. There's probably some incidents of that. But I think the committee's second recommendation, that we should have more measures to deal with public consumption of alcohol, that's something I support. I think we've had some measures to deal with that in the Little India area. I am personally open to expanding that to other areas where they congregate as well. To be fair, I think the current rules have actually hit the liquor shops hard, and I think a lot of them are diversifying their business, and some may even be closing. So I think the new rules will limit the number of liquor shops in Little India. But I think generally, if we have stricter rules on alcohol, the number of shops will probably regulate themselves because it becomes a less lucrative business.
Well, I would say those who can afford it, Ms. Lim was talking about being a first world country, those who can afford it will find themselves in pubs, cocktail bars, hotel lounges. But we're talking about people who can't afford that, but certainly want to have a little bit of recreational fun and have a drink. And certainly the foreign workers who sometimes barely get 3 hours off a week would like a little bit of this time out and be able to do some of these things. So I think, it's key to have areas where also they can have their recreational fun. They can also have a good drink with their buddies. And there must be spaces like that. And having said that, we also will be affected by these rules, Well, so the more resources, police visibility, more regulation you have, we'll also be stifled and be saying, where's our liberty?